Our second panel today is looking ahead at the challenges and opportunities for agricultural conservation. And we have another excellent panel with us today. And our panel this afternoon is moderated by Sarah Wyant. She's a veteran farm policy reporter who has, she's done it all, and she's had lots of...
She's still here. And still doing it all.
Including serving on CTIC's board of directors, and we're so proud to have the association with Sarah, and she continues to be a great friend of CTIC. So I'll turn it over to Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you to CTIC, and thanks to all of you for showing up for this wonderful 30th anniversary celebration. And it's just been great to look around the crowd, see people, and Dick and Chick, I haven't seen you for a long time, from when you were guiding me around CTIC meetings and teaching me the subject matter and how things work. And just our previous panel was just fantastic, weren't they? Just really good session that we had. And so it's a tough act to follow, but you know, Neil did his best, Bob Schieffer. And I just want to point out that you'll notice our session is called Looking Ahead, Challenges and Opportunities for Agricultural Conservation. It's not called Forward. And I am not Candy Crowley. So let's just set that straight. We have our own distinguished panel this afternoon, starting with on the my far left, Fred Luckey, who is chairman of Field to Market. Many of you have talked to Fred about the Keystone Alliance for Sustainable Agriculture, and he's also a retired executive vice president of Bunge for North America. So Fred, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Next to him is Dan DeSutter. Dan's a longtime conservationist from Attica, Indiana, and I understand that he has been doing free grass-fed beef before it was cool, and has been a pioneer in a lot of markets in agriculture. And so welcome to you, Dan. Next, Larry Clemens, the Nature Conservancy's Assistant State Director for Conservation Programs in Indiana, also a CTIC board member. And we kind of got this Indiana thing going over here, you notice. It's kind of heavy here on the board. But Larry's familiar not only with agriculture in the Midwest, but in Brazil, and he's going to share some of his insights on that. Next, Jerry Hatfield, the director of USDA's Agricultural Research Services National Laboratory for Agriculture and the Environment. Great title. And also a member of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, a Kansas native. So we're mixing it up a little here in the Midwest, but then back to an Indiana native who really needs no introduction in this format, because Jim Mosley has been at the forefront of not only conservation efforts, but leadership in Washington, D.C., as an advisor to the administrator at the Environmental Protection Agency and as deputy secretary at USDA. Currently one of 4 board members on the AGREE Foundation. So we're happy to have all of them with us. Please welcome them to our panel. Now, Neil and I also didn't compare notes on this, but just in talking, we thought we'd mix up the questions, and we happened to pick technology as our first question as well. And I think it's been amazing to see the progress that's been made over the last 30 years. Certainly, you know, from the time I started writing about agriculture and policy in 1980 and growing up on a farm in eastern Iowa, amazing changes that I've witnessed just in my lifetime. But I want to know what's on the horizon. We're celebrating 30 years of Conservation Technology Information Center here today. What are we going to be celebrating at the 50-year mark? And Jerry, I'd like to start with you. What are we seeing and what's on the horizon for conservation technology?
I thought the first panel was going to steal all of my lines that I put together, but I'm going to put a different spin on it because we are in a rapid age of technology. You look at what we've come through in the last 10 years and even the last 5 years. We talk about GPS. We control things to 1 centimeter level. We map fields at a ½ centimeter in terms of height. We have all of these different pieces of technology. But as we take this forward, what I'm seeing is that maybe we'll figure out how to put all those pieces together. We have a lot of different pieces, but I'm not sure we've made a good whole system out of it yet. How do we bring that together? I mean, if you take a look at this, and one of my favorite things to look at with producers is that we have yield mapping technology, we got GPS technology, we got GIS technology, we can throw all those maps in there, but we haven't figured out how to take all of that data and really make it information yet. And I think over the next 5 to 10 years, what we're going to see is how do we put that into information. So it can go back to Jane's comment that she made earlier, is how do we really build a system for continuous improvement? How do we really put it together so that what we learn from this season helps us for next season, and how do we plan forward and we get this rolling set of information so that we really do understand how to bring this together. But I think there's a piece of technology that will come out in the next few years that we haven't imagined yet, and that is the whole idea of robotic technology. I think we're going to see that GPS technology put into things in which we've got robotic tractors in the field. We've got a lot of other pieces. Drones, you know, will become part of our life, but I think not from a spying point of view, but in actuality a monitoring point of view. How do we take that and fly over fields and understand what's going on in different parts of that field so we can build very rapid remedial corrections in terms of what happened. So we don't have to go in and just spray the whole field. We'll be able to understand it, monitor it, but also evaluate what's going on in the soil as well. I think there's just some exciting things that are going to happen, but it's going to be not a lot of new technology, but how do we really take that technology and do something very, very useful with it and very, very practical for producers.
Some cool stuff on the way. Dan, have you seen some of these new things emerging on your farm? Are you ready for the robotics?
Anything that gets me out of a tractor seat when I'm ready to get out at the end of the day would be great. I've been accused of being a techno junkie at times, and I've hung more gadgets in my tractor cab than I care to think of at this point. And I think remote sensing and some of the things that Jerry's talking about are going to be wonderful. But the biggest one that I see, and I don't know if you call it a technology, but I'm going to call it the biological revolution. I think that coming to grips and understanding soil biology, how to make that work for us instead of some of the things we've done in the past that have maybe made it work against us, will be the thing that can help us move forward in terms of our productivity. And it'll certainly be aided by all the wonderful technology yet to come, which I wouldn't want to even try to predict yet. But I really think helping farmers and practitioners and educators understand that we're managing a biological system will take us to a new level.
That kind of begs to Jane's point that she raised, but how do we realize the potential, not only what's there now, and bring it together to be more useful? Other comments on technology as you see it advancing, Larry?
Yeah, there's a lot of scientists working on this right now with technology and conservation. Many of the Nature Conservancy scientists are working on this to where we can, I think now with the technologies we have, the understanding of the conservation practices, become a little bit more precise with our application of conservation and be targeted about how we're doing our work. We all understand we have less dollars to work with at the state and federal level, but if we can figure out where is that filter strip going to be the most effective, where is that grass waterway, where are those conservation practices going to be, and the technology there to help farmers and land managers make better decisions. And if we can couple that conservation decision support technology with some of the decision support tools that industry is creating for agronomic reasons on yield improvements and improvements in that way, it could be a really nice package into the future. And I'd like to think in 30 years we have that type of package available to where we can really be efficient with our conservation dollars and where we apply it out on the land.
Mm-hmm. Jim, did you want to add to that?
I see the sensor technology that will come as revolutionizing another phase of of what we do in agriculture, and I don't think we've come close to the real potential in terms of at the nano level of what we can do with sensors. There's another element of this, though, that I find fascinating. I'm going to go to the public policy side of this for just a second, and that is all the things we're doing on the farm to collect the data and really write the recipe for how we produce literally on a foot-by-foot basis now. Very small metric. That's all interesting. It's valuable. It's going to help us farmers in a major way. Let's step back from that for a moment and let's look at, as we consider the macro issues and the macro watershed, the effects, the ability of new technology now to actually do sensing for us in terms of what's happening at the Gulf of Mexico or the Chesapeake Bay and move all the way back up the watershed to the micro level. Ultimately, folks, and I'm going to bring up the whole issue of those people who are doing a great job in agriculture and those who are not doing so well. We're going to have to figure out a way, if we're going to maintain credibility with the public, to allow individuals to select themselves into those two groups. And I prefer a self-selection if possible. But the point is that we're not going to know where the real problems are coming from the Gulf of Mexico until we continue to work our way back upstream and actually come to the micro watershed. And my sense is that we are going to be able, and are probably very close to it now, capable of developing the sensor technology that's automated. So we're not sending out people to pull samples and tests in a very cost prohibitive way, but that we can do some technology out there at the micro watershed level that allows us to begin to assess where is the real problem at here. And once we do that, then we add another dynamic in terms of how we make improvements in agriculture. And really what I'm trying to do is to point out there's an awful lot of good things that are happening, and we can demonstrate it at the farm level, but somehow we have to be able to demonstrate it off of the farm level as well. And I want to be able to try to accomplish that. And I think we're at least at the beginning of being able to do that. The second thing I would bring up is that, and it was mentioned in the earlier panel, is this whole issue of communication technology and what's happening here. Think about the ability that we have today to go to our own farm office and sit down and just begin to scan for information on issues and problems. And the ability, and of course our youngsters, they don't go to a farm office, they just pull out their phone and they do it. But the ability we now have to access information and turn that information into knowledge, to me, accelerates the potential for us to do much better than what we are, if we choose to do so.
Fred, you're in the business of collecting a lot of this data. What new technology are you seeing on the horizon, or perhaps would you like to see developed in order to do a better job?
I think that's a fair question, would like to see. I'm not the one that you would ask that question to on a daily basis, technology. That is not my forte. Having said that, if you're involved in this subject around sustainability and how we're going to deal with the future, it's an inescapable solution. It's part of the solution. What is the best way forward? I don't have a clue what is going to offer the greatest hope. I've heard a lot of wonderful ideas here. I do very much embrace the remote sensing concept because many of the locations, this is a multinational, global issue. This is not just confined to North America. And we're going to have to be able to gather data in areas that are not traditionally accessible. I think that is critical. I think water is going to be our largest single challenge in how we utilize water. That's going to get into a political discussion as well. because water in and of itself is not treated in the same economic light as, say, oil is. We all know that we don't view it the same way. This concept of running it back to its origins. Nobody wants to spend money unnecessarily. So input management is crucial. I think I have, over 37 years now, understand a little bit about why we put as much nitrogen down and the reasons we do it, and the risk we take if we don't put down enough or we put down too much. And then that turns into watershed issues elsewhere. And it's taking this data and somehow getting, I think this is Jim's point, real-time data that gives us real-time feedback as to how to respond. Just-in-time delivery of inputs and maximization of the amount of water we have. And then I should say, and this is a little off topic maybe, but how we translate into getting the most out of what we have as opposed to just getting the most until the day is we run out of what we had. And so I think it's a data issue. I think it's a data gathering issue, and then I think it's translating it at real time into action. And that I'm encouraged. And lastly, I would say it's technology transfer. I remember years ago, many years ago, when I first started going down to South America, and we were all just started fumbling around with our big, bulky cell phones. And these folks in these developing world were already using cell phones. I felt rather silly that we were so behind the curve, but it was because the technology was easily transferred and they didn't have to invest in the infrastructure. And this can't be a totally competitive thing. We have to transfer these technologies because this is a global food shortage problem, and we all know what the consequences are if there's unrest in other parts of the world. We've got evidence of that. So I'll stop with that. Thank you.